They're worshiping demons.
XLD, Extraordinary Dads!
What do they look like?
Extraordinary Dads!
Where can you find them?
Extraordinary Dads!
We want to see them. We'll go out and meet one. Extraordinary Dads.
Welcome back to another episode of Extraordinary Dads. I'm Donald Murphy.
And I am Matthew Marichiba.
We are ordinary dads who have an avid interest in connecting and sharing experiences with other dads about the extraordinary act of parenting.
This podcast explores the brightest highs and the darkest lows in the lives of everyday dads, revealing unsung stories of caring, resolve, love, disappointment, growth, and everything in between.
We're here to learn and celebrate practical habits that regular dads have discovered to feel more successful as a parent, while also acknowledging the challenges and shortcomings that happen along the way.
Yeah, so this week our guest is Dan Olivieri. Donald and I know him well as a member and participant in our dads group. We've met monthly for the last 5 years, so we know this guy pretty well. But Dan happens to be a 68-year-old man parenting an 8-year-old daughter. So we thought it'd be fun to talk to him about his perspectives as an older dad.
So let's get into it.
Here we go.
Extraordinary Dads!
Delighted to have you here. Thanks for your willingness to share your wisdom as a dad. I think the perspective that we would love in the course of the conversation to have for you to imbue into this conversation is the fact that you are an older dad. You came to the dadding of your 8-year-old daughter, Sophia, later in life. So I'd love to get your perspective on that.
Yeah. I'm going to be 68 this month.
Impossible.
Yeah, well, given the fact that we're not on camera, I will say to all of our listeners, you do not look 68. You look like you're 48.
You look younger than both Donald and I.
Yeah. So whatever. So if you can reveal some of your secrets during this podcast as to why you look so good at 68.
My dad's genes.
Okay.
He looked young for his age.
Okay.
We've got the ability to sell lotions and product here. It's part of our marketing package. So
If you want to drop any of the lotions or elixirs that you use.
what's in your hair?
If you can see, I'm really shaking my head back and forth in slow motion.
Your luscious locks.
Yeah. Well, you've got darker hair than I have, and you've got a darker beard than I have. So keep up doing whatever you're doing.
My share of gray.
Well, let's dive in. So in addition to your proud looks and proud hair and physique, what are you most proud of as a dad with respect to where you are now? You've been at this for 8 years. What are real world examples of like the moments of your greatest pride?
Well, I'd say I'm very proud of the fact that I married a woman that I could give a full yes to, and that created a union that could welcome a child without regret. In my younger years, I don't think I was really ready to fully be a father. Life was too much about me.
Did Magali activate something in you that you were like, would you have gone, your whole life without a child had you not met your partner?
That could very well be. I was not anxious to be a father. But when I met Magali, it just seemed natural.
Did you guys talk about it when you met? That you both wanted to be parents? Was it part of your courting? Was it part of figuring out that you guys were right for each other?
Not right away. We just, she lived in Eugene, Oregon. I was here in Santa Cruz, and we met through friends, and she ended up moving down here. And we said we'd live together for a year. And if it evolved into marriage, then great. If it didn't, then we would go our separate ways. And then in the course of that, it just kind of naturally felt right. And we talked about having children.
So fast forward the tape, 8 years. Like, what are your proudest moments these days? You've had that child. You married the great woman. You've had the child. What makes you the most proud these days about how you go about your dadding?
I think that both, that both me and Magali, because we are older, I think we're more seasoned, less reactive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's real conducive for, raising a child with more, I don't know what you'd say. What would you say?
A grounded approach or something different?
Yeah, it's not as much drama, there's a lot of affirmation, a lot of love, and yeah, it feels good. I'm glad I could be kind to her daily. I'm glad I want to be available for her. It feels good, and I don't ever feel like resentful that I have to sacrifice other things, and I do have to sacrifice a lot of things. Just to be available as a father and a husband.
Is there anything in the last few days, the last few weeks, in terms of your interactions with Sophia, your parenting of Sophia, where you felt like, man, I feel good that I made that decision, or that I had that interaction with her, or that she responded in that way because of that interaction? Is there anything specific you can think about?
In the last few days, just affirming her, getting her blue belt in Taekwondo,
Mm-hmm.
and playing magnetiles with her and making these great looking kind of castle kind of architectural structures.
Is she self-motivated to go work through her belts in Taekwondo, or is it because of your encouragement,
No,
Magali's encouragement?
She's self-motivated. Yeah.
Right.
When she likes something, she'll be self-motivated.
Right.
I'm just curious. Do you guys have a parenting philosophy that you follow? Like, are you a PPP family or anything? Or...
Magali is a social worker, and she was trained in co-counseling, and the preschool that we put Sophia through was based on that kind of philosophy of listening and affirming and not shaming. I'm more old school than Magali is, so I grew up with spankings. That was normal. Getting called into the principal's office and getting whacked with the paddle, that was natural for me. It was like, you didn't question it. Nobody cried, child abuse.
Right.
But now, if I scold Sophia too much, or get too much of what Magali calls the 50s father, I get a lot of opprobrium from that. A lot of hassle. But, opprobrium, that's an old Latin term.
I need to take
So we don't talk about spankings, and I'll joke with her. I said, "Okay, go to the roof." And of course, she knows I'm joking. I'll call her "you bold brazen article," which is a term that I learned from old Catholic school, the nuns.
I want to jump ahead. We don't need to do these in order, but just to the notion of taking what you got as a child and applying it to your dadding now. Do you find, I guess you were referring to the things that you don't do now, even though it would be natural to you. Are there other counterexamples of I was raised with this, and I am absolutely not going to apply that to Sophia, or the opposite of my parents.
There's a couple things. One from my dad. He could get pretty nasty sometimes. He could lose his temper. I remember once he closed his fists and he gritted his teeth, and he said, "Are anyone like this right in my face?" And he said, "I'm not going to do that." My mom, she
did you think that at the time? Like, was that an instant?
No, I didn't think of that at the time. But in later years, I thought, it's not something I want to do.
Yeah.
And then my mom, she could be pretty invasive. Like, her sense of boundaries were not very good. It's like I'd be asleep and she'd come in, open the door, and want to put the laundry away, folded socks in the drawers. Mom, you're waking me up, But I have work to do,
Mm-hmm.
Or she's the one that decorated my room, which I wouldn't notice until my friends came over. There's a whole ornament thing on the dresser, and that's embarrassing. But I wasn't very sensate, so I didn't notice these things until, like I said, until a friend came. So I try to respect her boundaries and not be invasive. I'll knock on her door, and I won't read her diary, even though I want to. I feel responsible for her, and
That's a funny one. Diary seems like such an old school thing, but
her journal.
Yeah, exactly. These days we journal. But I've got a journal. Serena's got a journal. Our kids, have things that they write in, and we uphold the sanctity of the privacy of a diary. Which I don't know. Whenever we have the conversation, it almost feels like an old school conversation of like, there's a principle around the diary. It must be respected as a private thing. But it seems like the right conversation. Like, yeah, don't mess with your brother's private thing.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that's not an easy one for me because when I grew up, it was like very few things were really my own.
Mm-hmm.
And plus when, a child is young, you just want to get in there and aerate the soil of her psychological garden and see what's there. And, like if she doesn't want to talk about certain things, then I can know what's going on with her. But I have to respect that. So.
And picking up on that, how do you try, because one of the things, for me in parenting Dylan is I want to try to understand his interior life as much as I can in order to be the support that I want to be. How do you navigate that with Sophia?
I don't know. Can you say a little more about that?
I mean, when a simple example is I pick him up, today I picked him up from school and it's like, it's the constant challenge I have, which is how was school today? Good. I'm like, what did you do? He's like, stuff. I'm like,
You're the only one who has that. Everybody else is still going to tell us. Just blabber on and on about all the intimate details.
So, who did you hang out with today? I don't know. I'm like, so, there's going to come a point in his life where, and maybe it's already happened, and I'm trying to find that way in. But there's going to become a point in his life, and as he's entering puberty, his teenage years, where life's going to get complicated, and with emotions, with relationship with other people, etc. So I'm trying as best as I can to create a foundation where he's okay with letting me into his interior life. And so having that, and so conversations about his emotions, a crush on the girl, or, the crush on the girl that was rejected, or, he's trying to navigate relationships with friends who are doing things he may or may not be comfortable with. So is there a way that you try to lay the foundation with Sophia so that in she's entering puberty in her teenage years, you have set that foundation?
Yeah. So like when I pick her up from school or after care, I'll ask her about her day, and sometimes there's a lot of quiet, a lot of silence. And I'm naturally quiet too, so I got that from my dad. We'd go long trips without him saying anything, and I realized with my dad, I said, if I'm gonna have a relationship with my dad, I'm gonna have to learn how to be okay with silence. quiet. Because, we had to go 45 minutes driving to his workplace or something.
What age was that? Was that recollect, or was that
I was pretty
recognition?
young, 9, 10, 11,
Wow.
12, somewhere around there.
Quick question: what did he do for work?
He was a telephone man, and in later years he worked for a private business, but he was pretty much general telephone, PBX operator, and install those systems. But so I try not to push the river with Sophia. I remember my mom complaining that my youngest brother Michael would come home and she'd want to know all about his life, all about his day, and he wouldn't say anything, and she'd complain about that. And, so I know that dynamic, and so I don't get too anxious about that. I try to show interest, and every once in a while she'll share. And she'll share in some detail, and I want to make sure I'm listening and paying attention and interested. And but it kind of flowers where it flowers. The conversation. So.
You're a chaplain, so I feel like you've got an unfair advantage in terms of you know how to listen to people. I'm curious, do you ever find yourself using, your chaplain Aikido in terms of I'm gonna swing her around here and...
Yeah, I do. She's got a couple friends that she really loves, a couple girlfriends. And there came a point in their relationship where they needed to back off a little bit. And it really hurt Sophia's feelings. And then they got back together and it seemed patched up. And so I went to go pick Sophia up from aftercare. And she was playing with these girls. And she went up to hug both of them. And I could see in both of their body languages that they didn't hug back. So I suggested to Sophia that she ask permission if she's going to hug.
Yeah.
Because it just didn't look requited.
Not in the moment. Was it in the moment or later?
We
in
were
the conversation?
We were walking to the car.
Okay.
After I picked her up, and I observed this, and she kind of froze up, and she didn't want to hear that. So I think it was a day later that we're driving in the car, going to work. I'm going to work. I drop her off at school before I go to work. And I said, when I shared that with you, it's because, I said a few things, like, how would you like it if somebody came up and hugged you and you didn't want to be hugged? You got your own boundaries. And so it's respectful to do that, And I said, what bothered me was that you said no to me. And she did say no when I said you should ask permission to hug. I said, when you said no, that created ice between us in a way. Ice needs to be broken in that kind of term. And I said, you could have been curious. You could have asked, why would you suggest that? That way you could be curious, and it's no longer about you, whether or not you have to do something or not do it because your dad says. Yeah. But be curious. Why did he ask that in the first place? That gives you some freedom. That it's not about you. It's about Dad, about his own observations. And so she said, "Okay, why did you ask, or why did you suggest that?" And so I told her that about, it's that the girls didn't seem to respond to your hug, and you want to give freedom to your friends, and you want to be treated with freedom and respect too. So that's where I was coming from. She went, "Oh, okay." And then it created that kind of intimacy between us again. The ice was broken.
What a great conversation.
It was.
That's a big conversation for an 8-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of maturity that I see in her as you recollect her part of the conversation.
Yeah, she's
Probably a testament to you.
yeah. Well, it's me and her mother, and she's got her own degree of emotional intelligence that I feel very fortunate that she has. But when we were talking about using chaplaincy skills, listening skills, that was some like nonviolent communication.
That sounded very non-NVC-ish.
Yeah. So, yeah, in NVC, it's if you have ears of compassion, then rather than if somebody gives you a command, you could be curious about where's that coming from.
Kind of piggybacking on that, your chaplaincy work, I also know that you're a man of faith. You're deeply spiritual. You have a relationship with God. How much of that seeps into your parenting on a daily basis that you're maybe conscious of? I'm sure there's a lot that's unconscious, just given your value system, that may have been absorbed through the years of your faith. But are you conscious of approaching parenting from a God-centered
from a faith perspective? Yeah, I am. And Magali, my wife, and I, we don't see eye to eye on everything. I practice Catholicism, go to mass on Sundays, and take Sophia with me, and she likes it for the most part. I think also because there's donuts afterwards.
Those Catholics, they know how to pull you in.
Many a child stuck with Jesus for a lot of years for the love of a cookie and a donut.
She also likes
Guilty as charged.
she also likes catechism, which is AKA Sunday school. And I sit in with her because I don't want her getting indoctrinated in rigid,
I love
just, destructive kind of thinking.
I love that about you. I've heard you say that before, but it always strikes me as what an extraordinary thing to do. And yet awesome. Like, be right there.
I have I have a master's in divinity. And it was a 4-year master's. Now sometimes they're 3 years. So,
you got the 4-year master's.
Credentialing.
Back off.
Fancy. So to all of you 2- and 3-year masters of divinity people,
Suck it. We got a 4-year right here. Sorry.
No, the only reason I bring that up is because I know there's many levels you can take dogma or practice. And there's many ways to interpret things. There's many ways to be Catholic. There's many ways to be Christian. There's many ways to be anything, really. So I sit in with her and we discuss things, and she's interested, and I like that. And her mother wants to respect her choices. Nobody forces her to do that. So Magali comes more out of the yogi, shamanic, traditions, and I share in that with Magali. In fact, that was one of our original unions. And there's the Shrine of Guadalupe in Mexico City. Magali is from Mexico City, and so we were doing this Mexica pilgrimage, and it's where you're learning kind of Aztec spiritual warrior practices and purifications. And so we did that to when we were wanting to have children, because I was older, and my seed was older, and so we needed some rejuvenation. So we did this rejuvenation thing. And daily it was like doing qigong and the energy work, and really working on ourselves to create conducive conditions for having a baby. And then a year later, we had a baby. And so we took Sophia to the Shrine of Guadalupe, and we gave thanks for the prayer. We actually said a prayer for a baby when we're in the Shrine of Guadalupe. And, some people hear that might think that that's wacky, but I think that when you bring your intention to and make it a prayer, that the universe, God responds. However you want to talk about it. The quantum field response. So So, Magali, she doesn't like Catholicism. She looks at the 400 or 500 years of oppression that the church has perpetrated upon the indigenous people. Mm-hmm. And I see that too. But even though that's historically true, I don't reduce my religion to that. You know? Mm-hmm. So I have my reasons for continuing to belong to that. I have one foot in, one foot out. You know, mm-hmm. I'm also eclectic, so I also share in the shamanic practices and more metaphysical things. But so I've spent a long time integrating these things.
Do you bring that to, or does Magali bring that to your parenting?
We both do.
Journey to, in parenting moments?
Yeah.
Are there and here's the shamanic teaching or the...
Oh, no. I mean, we don't get that, didactic about it.
She's not getting the equivalent of catechism on, the other.
No, I mean, that might come out in just talking about, but it's not quite like that. I'll have my time, talking with Sophia at different times, or maybe we're riding in the car. We have, long time to share. And I'll give my insights on things. And, like this last Sunday, they were talking about, Jesus' temptation in the desert, after he's baptized and the devil, tempts, Jesus 3 times, power, pleasure, and prestige. Mm-hmm. And I told Sophia, I said, some people make too big of a deal out of the devil. It's like God and the devil are kind of equal the way people talk. Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't agree with that, And, so, I'll share things to kind of soften the dogma that she gets. And also, fortunately, there's a lot of emphasis on the ethical part of religion, treating people with kindness and love and sharing and,
that seems like the good stuff.
Yeah. So, we instill those things in Sophia, and but as far as the formal religion goes, it's pretty much following her interests.
So long term, do you think that you'd want her to practice long term, or are you just giving her the foundation and just say, okay, I'm exposing you to a formal religion here, and at a certain point you can take with it what you want? Do you have any expectation around how you would like her to approach spirituality, religion, through her life?
Yeah, she's getting interested in being an altar server, an altar girl, like helping with the mass up on the altar. Mm-hmm.
I was an altar boy for 9 years.
You were, yeah. So, I welcome that in her, but I am also, I know there's a razor's edge, you can get too rigid. And I'd feel sad if I led her into being overly rigid,
right?
And overly dogmatic or even overly moralistic. When someone's, she's a child, she takes things more literal, than I do, even with joking. Mm-hmm. I'll joke and she'll take it literally, and I'll say, I'm only joking. It's like at that level of development, it's just the way they just operate in the world.
Child logic.
Yeah. So, I have to work with that and allow for that. And there's a certain innocence and beauty in that. And so I don't want to overly control it, but I want her to be involved in the church to the extent that she wants. Also, I go to a church that I don't feel totally comfortable with because it's more theologically conservative than I'm really comfortable, even politically more conservative than I'm comfortable with. Mm-hmm. But grow where you're planted, and so I don't want her to, as I said, I don't want her to get overly conservative and overly rigid.
It's such a tricky one. So I was raised in a practicing Christian household, and it never landed with me. And since, I mean, I basically went to church every Sunday of my life until I left home for college. And then from that point onward was pretty actively like trying to, you know, with some amount of the righteousness of a teen and young adult of like, oh, the church has been so horrible. And anyway, I spent years just trying to kind of extricate myself from the whole business. And I don't want my kids to be hooked by the dogmatic side. Like I've seen other people, as we all know, you know, someone who's, you know, just been hooked by a bad dogmatic thing. And it doesn't even have to be religion, really, but religion seems like so ripe. There's just so present that form of churchianity, that, yeah, I have a, you know, we pray a little bit and we say thank you God for our food before meals. But, I'm in my head, there's always something about like, am I like opening a door for the dogma people to enter here? But I don't know. I don't want to be guarded. Like, don't you ever believe in anyone that comes a knocking with spiritual principles like that. Yeah. I don't know what my point is other than it seems double edged, or somehow there seems like a danger as
well.
Parent.
There is a double edge. I was just talking with a patient, today about how churches, you know, on the exoteric level, the outer level, caters to and supports, you know, it's like 80% of the population are you know, fortified in their religious ego, and baptize their own biases. And then, you know, then maybe 20% are spiritually free people, you know. So the church and religion, it creates both, you know. Often the church and that religious ego thing, in that milieu, it creates saints and then we kill them and then canonize them, you know. Yeah. But with children though, it seems to me that having a conservative foundation is a good thing. You know, like a certain amount of rules and regulations, some boundaries about how to behave, you know. I think that's useful. And then also on a spiritual level, I think it gives kind of a foundation that there's some solid ground that your psyche can be in. Like when you go to bed at night, there's a God who loves me, you know, you know, and you know, I can love myself. I can love. There's some principle, something there that's on the comparable to when you go into the redwoods and you feel supported by the beauty, you know. So, and I hear people say, you know, they had the religion as a kid and then they let it go, and then on their deathbed, they're reverting to their imagination that was rooted in their childhood, so that God relationship level, you know. And so it's just interesting how that happens, you know. So I want to support Sophia in her younger years, to have that kind of conservative, in a good way, foundation. And then she can,
like old school core values.
Yeah.
This is what we stand on, sort of conservative value.
Yeah, and you know, we live in a postmodern age where there's no objective truth. You know, whatever you feel is right. You know, and that goes so far, but I think there's just not a solid earth for our society in that kind of postmodern world.
Yeah.
That just has a knee-jerk reaction to anything that sounds like objective truth, you know, like because you're afraid of dogma, you know.
Yeah, like me. Yeah, I mean, and there's a beauty to putting yourself in an environment where you contemplate what's right and wrong. You don't have to buy all of the checklist items of what this one's right and this one's wrong. If you can acknowledge that, there's a framework for assessing what's right and wrong, and it's useful to do that. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I always love listening to how you describe, religion and your spirituality because it seems so right to me, Dan.
Yeah.
You got it so damn right. In a way that I never, there are very few deep Christian conversations that I have that end up making me feel, closer to Christianity. Mm-hmm. Thank you for that.
Sure. Well, thank you. Thanks for that affirmation. I feel fortunate to be eclectic enough and also to be in the Catholic contemplative mystical tradition that really values silence and being able to integrate different wisdom traditions, different religious ideologies, different schools of thought, not on just an intellectual level, but, being in the silence that can see the value of each one and then able to integrate them. I'll give you a quick example of when I was working with the Native American elder. I did for 10 years and I had to do 4 rites of passage. And the third one was a month hermitage. Mm-hmm. And I had a Catholic religious object with me, and I had my medicine bowl with me, and I would also in the daytime I'd had to build a little sweat lodge, and it was hot, and the flies were biting, and in your ear. And I could hear my mother's voice saying, "You're worshiping demons. You're worshiping demons," as the flies are going.
Interesting.
And then I'm sitting there, towards the evening when the sun's going down, and I'm seeing I got this Catholic thing here and the shamanic thing here. What do I do with each one of them? And I couldn't integrate them. And then I would go into the silence. And then I could see the grace of each one. Huh. And then there was no dichotomy. Uh-huh. Not at all. Nice. But then I'd go back into my mind and you're worshiping demons, and just have that conflict. And then go into silence. So I got to see the different layers of that was really good because, it's like, what epistemology is. It's the study of knowledge. So when you're in silence, there's a different epistemology. There's a different way of knowing than when you're just in your thinking mind, and there's that subject object and seeing the good parts and the bad parts, which is useful, but that doesn't have the same wisdom as the silence does. So, anyways, I'm going off too much.
I hope you're okay if I take away forever the quote, "You're worshiping demons," because I want to say that every day now.
But taking this back to parenting and that kind of wisdom, is there, in terms of, an actionable habit that works well for you being a better dad that you kind of lean on an ongoing basis, or maybe there's an actionable habit that you've discovered recently? Is there an example you can give us?
What's working right now?
Well, being kind.
What?
And not having knee-jerk reactions. Magali and I will try to support each other in not, being bitchy, and, we'll call each other on that, when you get tired and you just had it up to here and haven't slept enough. It's easy to get, angry, just irritable.
Mm-hmm. That's a tricky one to navigate in partnership, actually.
Yeah.
You're when you recognize it in your partner that you're not on your best game today, but I can't tell you that right now, but you're having an interaction with each other. You have to kind of just take your hands off a little bit.
Yeah. What I appreciate about Magali is that she can hear that feedback.
Oh, she can in the moment.
Yeah. Well, maybe not the moment, maybe a few moments later.
Sure.
But she's pretty good about that. And I think that creates an atmosphere for parenting. I don't know how actionable it is. I mean, it's more like an ethic. But when I ask Sophia to do something, I'll say, please. Mm-hmm. And that just, I think, shows a respect for her. It's not like I'm the dad and you do it. although sometimes I will, if she pushes the boundaries too much. She's so sensitive. She likes to please, and if I scold her too much, she'll cry and be upset. And, so, I try to watch how I speak. And, I think that's the biggest one.
As an aside, sorry, I'm cutting you off. I'm grabbing the microphone. Just as an aside, we're bringing back please and thank you, where my family's been focusing on it for the last few weeks. I was cluing into it, and then as I recognized it more and more, it just bugged me. I'm like, I just bark orders at my kids. There's no please. I was listening to Serena. There's no please, and then I listen to my kids bark orders at me, and I'm like, where the hell's the please?
Yeah.
It was just bumming me out for more than a month. So anyway, we put it on the family meeting list, and I'm like, how about some pleases and thank yous? So we're it feels like back at fourth,
And they're like, no thanks.
no thanks, Dad. No, in a way it feels like I'm back, with 3-year-old, toddler training, but really being more mindful about it. And I really appreciate being asked with a please. I want to do one from left field, and maybe we can move to wrap it up. The question about, is there something in your life as a parent that feels totally unseen or unspoken, yet is immensely important or influential to you?
I thought about that question. I can't really think of anything.
Oh, okay.
I don't play music enough, but when I do, it creates a good atmosphere, for my family, and trying to get Sophia to play music, as she was doing guitar practice and ukulele practice, and she had a teacher, and then she didn't like the boundaries that were the discipline that was being set, so she quit. She doesn't play as much, but she's pretty good. She remembers the change of the chords, and we sometimes will play together, and she'll sing with me and play with me sometimes. And
I love that you've got that going on.
Yeah, I really do too. So, if I didn't do that, that would have been a place where I didn't feel seen, because I write music, and it's part of my past. It never really flourished, with in the way I would have liked, and with others. But anyways, it's around enough that
that resonates with me a lot. That my creative being, I feel is, is intrinsically not visible, not tangible. But yeah, they're like in my inner core, I feel that I'm a musically creative and I'm a creator. But you can go through your dadding of like, okay, I'm going to go to work, pick up shoes. You can just do all the things without the world ever seeing that.
Yeah.
You're a musician, and a really good one, by the way.
Well, thank you. I got lousy timing, but, but thanks. I do have some creativity, and I think I have some pretty good songs, but I don't have that solid timing to, really jam well with others to a certain extent. Anyways.
It warms my heart that you jam with, Sophia. I feel like I did the classic, I put too much pressure on Mayana, to, I'm not paying for piano lessons if you're only going to play when you're in the lesson, which I think probably every music lesson dad has said at one point. And, but yeah, it stressed her out and she got out, and now I'm trying to get her back to want to jam with me a little bit.
Yeah. What I feel good about with Sophia, and when she was taking music lessons, is that I would play with her, and then I know how to do improvisation. So we'll take 3 chords and we'll just play them, and she'll play them, and then it just evolves into a song. And she likes writing lyrics. And so she started writing lyrics to this one progression that we agreed upon.
That's great.
And then I built on that. Now we have a song that we sing for people.
God, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
It was a collaboration, dude.
Who goes on the album liner notes as the songwriter, though? Are you willing to take the back
It would
seat?
be like Lennon and McCartney, which that sounds better than McCartney and Lennon, I think.
So is there anything about parenting that we haven't brought up or addressed or asked about that you think is important to share and leave us with?
Oh, I'll probably think of things when I'm driving away.
Well, that'll be episode 2. We'll have you back.
Yeah, but I can't think of anything right now. Yeah. I'm sure there's plenty of things,
Yeah.
What about for you guys? Is there, spark my imagination?
No, this is all your time.
Yeah.
We're only sucking from your experience.
Well, there's a couple of things actually that, and I've written down one of them, and I'll paraphrase the other. Earlier on in the conversation, you said you're not going to push against the river. Was that? I think you said something
Like that.
Yeah, which is great. And
About trying to get her to talk.
Yeah. And then the other one that I wrote down is grow where you're planted.
I like that.
Which is a great. Which to me, speaks to, okay, thinking back upon my own upbringing, the things that, my parents, my dad may have instilled in me that I've forgotten, things that he may have modeled that I've forgotten about, that I need to, recognize that that's where I was planted. And how can I take that and grow? So I appreciate, really like that turn of phrase. So, but beyond that, thanks for sharing your wisdom with us.
How much wisdom, but thank you.
There's a lot of wisdom.
Experience.
Thanks, Dan. As always, we got some laughs. We went deep. We went high. I liked it all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Come back again sometime.
Okay. I don't know if I really shared the pride part about creating a space, a home for Sophia, where, as far as modeling goes, an approach to say things like religion or life or politics that kind of can hold conflictual elements and do it in a way that has kind of a grounded, kind of an okayness.
Yeah. It's in short supply these days.
Yeah. So,
and also seems like a gift of an older dad, really.
To be honest with you, I think that's true. And as I got older, I don't bang heads as easily anymore. It's not worth it for me. It's not that I'm passive. It's just there are, it's like Gandhi said, what did he say? Honor the truth in your opponent, or see the truth in your opponent. Because you can even say something that's heretical, but even heresy can have a half truth to it. So I just try to hold that space.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
Awesome.
That's a good one too.
Will you say, "You're worshiping demons" one more time for me?
you're worshiping demons.
Okay.
Extraordinary guest.
Well, what a great interview with Dan. That was fun.
That was a great conversation with Dan. What did you particularly like?
Yeah, we've known Dan for so long that I know him to be a very thoughtful and deep and spiritual man. He's a chaplain. He obviously, he knows his theology, but it's always, I'm impressed that he brings it down to ground level. Like he puts it into practice.
So well said, Matthew. See you next time.
See ya.